my land business is in a place where I'm able to spend a little bit less time in it, and I'm not slowing my land flipping business down by any means. Today, it is just Dan and I uh, debating each other, essentially, on a topic today where I think it's relevant to me and my business and potentially relevant to a lot of you. I just recently got licensed to be a real estate agent in Colorado, and I'm going to advocate for why that's a great idea for my business. And Dan is going to try and humble and humiliate me on why it's a bad idea. But before we jump into it, Dan, how are things going?
I'm good. It's really busy buying a lot of land right now, doing deals all over the place. But I like this conversation because I think what we really want to drive home is that everything has trade-offs. This is why it drives me nuts when people will speak as if, oh, apartments are the best in all scenarios or commercial, whatever, because it's just not the case. Every strategy, everything has trade-offs. And it's just, are you okay making those trade-offs as opposed to others? I think that's what will really drive home here with the two differing perspectives.
Absolutely. And something that Dan and I have always tried to talk about a little bit throughout from the beginning of the show through now, over 100 episodes in, is we're not dogmatic in our approaches. We do what we think is right for us within our own businesses, with our own personalities and skills and mindset and everything like that. Some of this works for us, some of it doesn't work for us, and I think that's you know one of the points we want to drive home. We're not advocating for right or wrong. We're advocating for what we think is working well for us in business and the rationale behind it.
Yep. Well, let's start it off. I guess one of the big things right off the bat that comes to my mind as to why I wouldn't want to be licensed is the amount of disclosures you have to put on all your marketing pieces. And, kind of as a corollary to that, just the constant worry that someone can always come back and say, hey, well, I thought you were representing me because you were licensed. And these things are kind of two sides of the same coin. So how are you handling that?
Yeah, so we just sent out our first batch of marketing material for me as an agent, where, I mean, as someone that owns a lot of land, I get a ton of marketing material from other alleged land flippers. Granted, I say it all the time. None of you guys call me back. Like, we just had a deal fall through with an alleged land flipper that totally ghosted us. So if you want to succeed in this business, regardless of if you're an agent or if you're not, call your leads back. Otherwise, you will fail. But for us, for this particular one, we're kind of distinguishing our marketing a little bit differently. So this was targeted for me to achieve listings, where it's just it's a postcard, just like what you send and what I send in our investment business all the time, where it says, "Are you tired of lowball offers on your land? Work with professional land specialists that are able to assist you in getting market price for your land by going to market." And the only disclosure we have beyond me saying that I'm an associate broker is at the very bottom. It says, "This is not a solicitation. If your property is already listed with an agent, our intention is not to take this from you." And then in addition to that, within our other marketing material that we're sending and the cold calling that we're doing and texting and everything like that, we're pitching ourselves as investors. And then, we will disclose that we are agents during the conversation, but it gives us, and I'm kind of expanding beyond your question to go into the rationale to why I got licensed, or at least one reason, which is most people in this business want market price for their land. It's rational, makes sense, it's logical. Obviously, they don't want to sell at pennies on the dollar. Most people don't, and some people do. But now we have that option depending on the order of marketing material that we send. If we send investor focused and they're like, we want market price, and it's like, well, we are willing and able to list your property for you for market price. We really know this business as investors and we want to go get you market price. We just, we're investors too, and we really believe in the product. So I'll pause for a second there, Dan.
Well, what I'm still trying to get at here is forget about people that convert to listings. You find that seller who's like, hey, I hate realtors. I don't want to list in the market, which there's plenty of them, or whatever the scenario may be. And you go buy that Eastern Colorado piece of land for, $1,000 an acre and it's worth $1,700 an acre. how are you protecting yourself, or are there disclosures they're signing along with just the normal purchase agreement where they're acknowledging that, hey, this is below current market value? Because in these sorts of lawsuits, if that were to ever happen, I would think that the business owner is always looked at in a negative light relative to that poor property owner. So what are you doing to hedge against that for the deals that you are buying directly at a discount?
Yeah, so I mean, this is new. I've only been licensed for 2 weeks at this point in time. So for in this scenario where we're able to offer this much money, we only need to disclose that we are agents within that. We don't have a fiduciary responsibility to that person at that point in time because they are not an active client of ours. They're maybe considered a customer. So I can understand where you're coming from, and we do have to disclose that, but we don't have to do a market analysis for people that we're buying land from.
Yeah, I've done a couple transactions lately where I was on market and I just represented myself, and I still had to sign something for the brokers that said, hey, the broker is clarifying, we are not representing you. And they wanted that in writing and signed. So are you going to do that?
Yeah, we'll have disclosures saying,
Okay.
hey, and there's disclosures for everything, and we're going to over disclose. And
Good.
just like with everybody, of going back to, I mean, years ago, if you listen to some of our first episodes of why direct seller marketing is some of the best skills to learn, we talk about it. If we attempt to do business as ethically as possible, where we let people know of like, hey, we are investors. We cannot pay top dollar for that property. If you want top dollar for your property, I encourage you to list it with an agent. And we still have that approach today in every transaction that we're doing. So I think the idea of the excess disclosures or having to really worry about everything is kind of beyond. We're transparent in all the operations that we're doing. We're not trying to hide anything. And I think that's where people might get held up, is if you're trying to be sneaky and be like, ooh, look at this deal that I'm getting where, I'm buying it for 20,000, but it's actually worth 200,000. That's where you really start getting yourself in trouble. But if you're honest and from the get go of letting people know you're an investor and we are an agent, I'm an agent as well. We can only, as investors, we can purchase it at this price. So we're still working on the dynamic of the approach that we go with of, for the broker focused marketing, because I'm not stopping my land business by any means, but for the broker focused marketing where, we just sent out, I don't know, 4,000 pieces of mail today or yesterday, seeking to get a listing. If they call us and say, hey, this is what we can list it for, and they're like, actually, like, I don't, average days on market is 200 days in this area at this price. And I can offer, say, hey, if you're not interested in listing and you're just wanting a cash offer, I'm an investor as well and would be happy to pay cash for your deal. I will probably turn around and attempt to sell it for more. But it gives us kind of a double edge to be able to market from both standpoints and get leads for both businesses. If that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I still have the advantage of being able to use my 2-page contract and not use that ridiculous. I just signed another, the amount of closing instructions and disclosures, and that part sucks. So I'm glad I don't have to do that because it's much more palatable for a normal person to just sign a contract they can read in 10 minutes as opposed to that monster that is the Colorado real estate contract. But
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that, that's definitely an advantage on your part of being able to simplify the paperwork. And I mean, people are scared of realtors or scared of paperwork. And, but if they're active in the business, because I've used that contract in transactions before too, of people have wanted or asked for the standard Colorado, realtor contract. So, it will be something that comes up. I have no doubt. And we'll see. I'm brand new at this. After this show, I'm going on a buyer appointment to work out a few buyer deals, just from leads that I got from Facebook and everything like that. So we'll see. I haven't closed a transaction yet as a realtor. I'm listing my first property this weekend, which is one that I own, which going into, a pro of becoming a realtor, that's one of the reasons that I became a realtor. I've spent, I think, over 480,000 on realtor commissions over the last 3 years. And I know that a lot of the realtors that I work with have not done as well as I could do. And I think that paying that commission constantly has become a frustration, especially whenever I get these really dumb questions about the property that my realtor is representing me on, that they should really, really know the property and they don't. And they're coming to me with all these questions. And I feel like I'm doing their job for them, especially whenever I market it myself and would bring buyers to the table from Facebook or wherever. And they're getting paid a commission, sometimes a transaction brokerage for all the work that I did, which is another reason why money saved is one of the main reasons to vertically integrate into the business and save money to why I became a realtor. So Dan, argue against that of the money that I'm saving.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can, because you said you can do it better. And I believe that. But you could also open a title company and do that better, because there's a lot of pain in the ass there. A lot of things you could do better, but you cannot do everything, and it will take away from, there's an opportunity cost to everything that you are doing. So I would hope that you do not let the listings, just being a realtor representing other people, stop you from focusing on getting your own deals. Because sure, if you sell a lot of property, you'll have nice consistent checks, but those are small checks. Those are mostly small checks. You'll probably get some big listings, and there is a lot of minutia and paperwork and clerical crap that you are going to have to do. That's going to take a lot of time, and I know you're going to be super frustrated, as opposed to spending that time on going and buying more $100,000 flips or subdivides.
So I agree with that. And I think, to argue for it, I'm not discounting the amount of work, and I'm going to do it all myself at the beginning before hiring a transaction coordinator to get good at it. Goes back into a few episodes ago where we talked about you have to get used to being uncomfortable when you're new at something. And I'm brand new to this. It doesn't matter that I have, if you count the buy and sell side, hundreds of real estate transactions under my belt. I've never done it as an agent. So I'm brand new. So I need to do the process myself in order to fully understand it, to both best represent myself in my own deals as well as my clients and buyer and seller deals. But I think something to remember too is for these deals where, there's the minutia, there's the complexity, which I'm dealing with already. Like it already feels like I'm dealing with the minutia and the complexity within the business already with realtors. But for deals where I'm representing a buyer or representing a seller, even on these small ones, these $100,000 to $200,000 properties where at best I'm going to make, $3,000 to $5,000 on each of these transactions, I'm spending almost no money to make that happen. So even if I'm spending, several hours per month on it, if I'm able to generate an additional, $10,000 to $20,000 in income that doesn't cost, because I don't know what your median return, percentage on deals is right now. Mine's probably like, we have a triple we're going on right now, which is nice. But in general, our deal median cash on cash return is like somewhere in the 30 to 60% range generally. And now my cash on cash return per deal for these listing deals, even if I'm, spending money on marketing and all sorts of stuff like that, is going to exponentially increase and reduce the amount of capital that I'm actively deploying, which makes it so where for my own deals, for the subdivisions, for the land flips, I'm able to use a lot more of my own cash because I have something that's actively generating me income. Even though it takes a tremendous amount of time and effort, not having to deploy capital into the deals is another one of the big, big pros in my mind to becoming an agent and trading the capital deployed to time deployed. So will it be the best use of my time? Who's to say? But right now I'm in a stage of my life where I'm very comfortable working a ton and devoting a tremendous amount of time to stacking as much cash as possible to do more and bigger deals myself within the land investing business.
Yeah, to push back a little bit, I'll use an example. So there's a property on market that I'm buying, and this realtor didn't even put up signs. So that gives you a good idea of what the realtor's like. And he has made so many mistakes on the contract that we've had to redo and re-sign. And it has taken we've been in agreement on price for over a week. and he complains quite a bit over email about what he's doing and the double commission he's making. And I deal with that on one side of the transaction personally, when I'm buying, if it happens to be on market. I don't deal with it when I'm selling. My realtors deal with that. As a licensed agent, you're going to be dealing with that all day long. And I would say that is probably the number one or one of the largest deterrents in my mind from doing this, where like the lowest part of the totem pole in real estate is real estate agents a lot of times. And then there's some exceptional ones that dominate, make a ton of money. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking. I have great real estate agents, but there are, 20, 30, 40 incompetent ones for every competent one. And those 30 incompetent ones all have family members. And those family members give them listings. And so I do not envy you having to deal with those people, because yes, I am on the back end of that when we're selling and I have a realtor representing to me and I'm aware of this, but there's so many emails and stupid phone calls and little things that take your time that I'm not dealing with that you are going to have to deal with. So that part of it is going to be rough.
100% agree. And that right there is one of the other reasons that I went and got licensed, because I didn't just get licensed to start selling my own deals. I didn't just get licensed to increase my lead flow through the amount of marketing. I mean, I spend over 6 figures a year on marketing. I know you do too, Dan. I don't think the even top, quartile of realtors, probably in that 25% range, are spending anywhere close to what we're doing. And they're all targeting homes. So I know that I'm going to get more deals and more leads in this land business than most realtors are, because most realtors don't know anything about land. And that's why it's so frustrating to deal with them. And I see the scalability of this business, of turning this into a, Colorado Land Acquisition Services eventually will probably become its own brokerage, an employing brokerage where I have buyer agents and seller agents that were able to take over the Front Range of Colorado and eventually all over the state, and turn it into a really, really scalable business. Because some of the people we know have created extraordinarily profitable businesses on their brokerages. We had Trent Katie on the show a few episodes ago, and he's built something really, really big with his father over the years. And I see myself building something like that, because there's a little bit of this, which is the shiny object. It's vertically integrated into my business, and it's an additional revenue stream that's actively and directly related to what we're doing. But I do see this as one of the most scalable things that we can do to generate multiple 7 figures per year that we're then able to turn into our own projects, which a lot of the most successful real estate brokerages, that's what they do. So they make a ton of money on their listings and representing buyer clients, and then they go do developments and go buy their own rental properties and everything like that. And I really, really believe that I have the ability to disrupt the land agent space, because we all talk about finding these great local realtors and these land specialist agents, but they're so few and far between that if I can work on building what amounts to be over the next 20 to 30 years a nationwide land brokerage that actually is able to service the land community in a way that most other brokerages have historically not been able to. And I'm not saying there's no competition out there. There's plenty of competition out there, but minimal compared to the housing space. And the transfer of land that is occurring over the next 5 to 20 years is going to be huge. We all talk about this great transfer of wealth. So much of that wealth is in land and in farmland and agricultural land, that if we set ourselves up now as the premier land brokerage, or me as a land agent and eventually as a brokerage, over the next 5 years, that 20 years from now, as all of these people are dying and all this wealth is being transferred, we'll be able to, be the middlemen in transactions that generate a tremendous amount of income for us.
Yeah. Yeah, those are all fair points. And as we said, it's a matter of trade-offs. One thing you said I want to clarify, or just make sure in case any realtors are listening, when you said spending $100K a year on marketing, and most realtors aren't doing it, most land realtors aren't doing it. There's a lot of home sellers in major parts of the country that spend that a month. But yes, most land realtors are not.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I want to clarify your point. Most realtors are not spending anywhere close to that much money. I think that, it's Pareto principle of the top 20% are doing 80% of the deals. and the top 20% of that is doing the 80% within that. But I mean, you own a lot of land. I don't know how many land broker marketing pieces that you're getting on a regular
Not
basis,
many.
and it's some, not many. It's not great, and I think what's fun about it for me is with the influx of land flippers and land investors that send these really horrible pieces of marketing material,
Yeah.
just like, back whenever I first started sending the property tax postcards, I'm able to send, marketing material that your crappy marketing material, I'm talking to whoever's sending crappy marketing material, um, you're going to feed my business, which I'm super excited about. So yeah, I think in general, I will be spending more than most land agents, especially on products that most people don't want to touch. Most realtors don't want to touch these, $50 to $200,000 pieces of dirt. And I'm willing to, because I like getting experience, even if I don't make a tremendous amount of money doing it, because I can see the light at the end of the tunnel of what this can turn into.
Sure. All right. Well, we'll have to maybe do a live big picture blueprint experiment where we send marketing to the same landowners at the same time, and I'll trash realtors and mine, and you can trash land investors and see which is hated more.
I know, right? I mean, and I think they're both hated, which is what's fun about being on both sides of the coin. But
Um, well, I have a couple more right away that I really want to get into, and this one, I would really miss this if I ever had to get licensed, and that's losing the barrier between you and the buyer. I'm selling a piece in Colorado right now. There's an old modular home, a well, a septic, power. The power is not really doesn't matter to what I'm saying, but condition of each are, I don't know. I mean, there was a well test done. It's potable. But there's a lot that can go wrong there. There's a lot that if the buyer's agent is incompetent, you're playing telephone, communicating through multiple people, that could lead to someone being upset and trying to come back after you. And now in America, it's very easy to go after people. They can always come back after me. However, when there's two fiduciaries, my realtor and the seller's, or excuse me, buyer's realtor, and they're making all of the, uh, what is the warranties, disclosures, whatever. What's the word I'm looking for?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that makes me sleep better at night because if something goes wrong, well, that's why the realtor has or the brokerage has E&O, errors and omissions insurance, where they could go after the fiduciary. And I'm not the fiduciary. I'm not making any warranties or representations. That was the word I was looking for. So I wouldn't be thrilled about taking on that risk. What do you say to that?
yeah. So I mean, in the instance you're talking about where it's on the seller to fill out the seller's property disclosure sheet in pretty much whatever state. I'll speak to Colorado because that's where I'm licensed. But I mean, I've done deals in lots and lots of states, and it's on the seller to disclose everything that they are, that's made known about the property that they're aware of. So, in the instance where you are selling a property that you own and you're acting as the agent on that property, the biggest thing to remember is that you're not representing the buyer. Where in that instance, like, get another agent to represent the buyer. Do not try to do a transaction brokerage, which means you represent both, or you're not representing either side. You're just assisting in the transaction. Where, I'm saving money on the seller side. I'm not going to save money on the buyer side. I'll still, pay buyer's commission, when it's, asked for and everything like that. But, because you're only representing what you know, and it goes back to disclose everything that you possibly can. You do have the errors and omissions insurance, but you're still a seller. And so if you don't disclose something that's, adverse or it's negligent of you not to disclose, then they can come back for you. And it's the same thing, without being an agent. So I guess, at the end of the day, like, still using a title company, not trying to do wacky transaction brokerage stuff. I know plenty of realtors whose license get dinged because they try transaction brokerage, and you really can't advocate for both parties. Like, you literally cannot represent yourself in a way that's unbiased, which is where some of the laws have come in, and there's dual agency concerns and all sorts of stuff like that. So I think, for me, it doesn't stress me out any more than, it stresses us out whenever we're not licensed. I mean, just like that weird Oklahoma deal, like, that was stressful. regardless of the fact that it's like we know we're protected, we know we disclosed everything, that all this different kind of stuff that came up that we're like, dude, we have receipts of you acknowledging different things, which protects us. And so I think having been on the other side of it as a buyer and seller in an investor capacity gives me an advantage to where I'm going to over disclose and make sure everyone really knows everything and not put myself in a position because I have enough money coming in from other stuff where it's like, I don't need these deals to go this way. And I don't know, over disclose, be honest. And I think in general, you're going to be safe and protected.
Yeah, I think it's North Carolina. I forget. It varies from state to state, but in North Carolina, when I fill that out, I just click no. There's a no representation option, so I just click that for everything. So I've never been to the property. And on this one in Colorado, I wrote at the bottom, I've never been there. I have no idea if any of these improvements are in workable condition prior to do their own due diligence. But the realtor is the one that has to communicate. And I don't know. So there's two sides to that coin where it's still nice to have that fiduciary in between who's licensed and insured.
1000%. I agree with that.
One of the other things that comes to mind right away that makes me not want to get licensed is often the in-person constraints. And this is solvable, but it is hard to do that remotely. And I know you're planning to stay in Colorado, so that's fine. But if you want to take those vacations or go to Cabo for a month, that's going to be harder to do.
Agreed. And the way I look at it is I'm starting over, or I'm adding something to my business that feels like I'm starting over and I'm new. And for now, it means that I need to work as much as I possibly can to do it. But it also means I'm still in control of the amount of work that I'm able to do. And knowing the quality of other agents out there, I think what I'm going to be able to do whenever I am in town versus whenever I'm on vacation or not on vacation or whatever it is, I think it's going to still be able to perform at a higher level. I mean, Dan, you and I are working on, potentially a decent sized deal in Colorado where that agent that's representing that particular client on that property would make a tremendous amount of money if we're able to work this deal. Have they called me back 24 hours later?
That's crazy. That's crazy. And for listeners, this is a multi 7-figure deal.
And
Great.
I sent you the email with all the stuff on the MLS, which I'll put that plug in there because I have it in my notes. Having direct MLS access is fantastic. Being able to pull all the additional documents and everything that you're not seeing online, really great. Helps me as I search for deals myself. But I think that right there makes me feel less concerned about if I take a vacation, because to me, even if I'm on vacation, I'm the kind of person where I get a call come through and usually there's going to be a time change. I mean, I'm going to Portugal for a few weeks in September. And whenever I get calls, I'm going to just have my voicemail changed of, hey, I'm so sorry I missed your call. I'm out of the country right now. We're in a different time zone. If you shoot me a text, I should be able to respond. But if not, then, contact this person, everything like that. Of my career before, I was CEO of a hospital. I didn't, even on vacation, every emergency that was life or death, I still got contacted. So in real estate, there's no real emergencies. And also by narrowing the scope to what I'm focusing on, I'm not doing these weird, crazy house deals where it's like, I need to move in because I'm moving by the end of the month. And if I don't move in, then I won't have anywhere to go. I'm not touching that. Like, there's less emotion involved typically in land transactions. And I think that right there gives me the flexibility to still have a little bit of the geographic freedom in terms of travel, but also time freedom too I will work on the weekends, but probably not as much as other realtors, because this is an additional revenue stream, not my primary revenue stream.
Yeah. One thing you alluded to is starting over. And this is something that, obviously Hormozy's been preaching this and pretty much everyone listens to him, but he's not unique, right? This has been said before he existed, of just all the momentum you have in doing something for years and years and all the experience. And granted, you're not starting a restaurant. or something like that. But there is still a loss of that momentum. And part of me thinks if you had just tripled down on subdivides in Colorado, you'd be further ahead than kind of taking a few steps back.
So I hear what you're saying, but I think something else is my land business is in a place where I'm able to spend a little bit less time in it. And I'm not slowing my land flipping business down by any means. What my goal is you and I can look at our accountability sheet for the past, I don't know, 2 or 3 years now. And if we go back in history, because we have all the tabs hidden from Q1 of, 2023 and all that crap, one of the biggest challenges we're having in both of our businesses has historically been access to capital. And by being able to be on the side of some of these deals where if I represent a seller in a $4 or $5 or $10 million transaction, that's going to give me a bigger payment than a lot of these other small land deals will give me, which gives me greater access to capital as I develop and network in relationships where I'm working with builders and developers on deals that are off market that no one will see on the MLS that are these subdivide deals where I can come in and they're like, I'm looking for a buyer. And it's like, well, I can be a buyer. And I never would have seen that without having this license and being able to have the potential ability to represent them, I think adds to the business and also the lender relationships. So there's so many lenders out there that we didn't necessarily know of, but now as I'm developing my vendor list and my, preferred lenders that I'm working with that have land products that are really good, that give us the ability to leverage, deals potentially better. I think that it adds more to the business. And that additional revenue stream gives me greater access to capital to be able to do more deals. Especially with, using investor capital, all the different things of one of the biggest stressors in the land flipping business for me historically has been the sine wave of cash flow of some months are great. You have a ton of sales and then you have acquisitions and sales. And even if you're using other people's money, it's still stressful if you don't have tons of money coming in every month, and being able to have that additional revenue stream really puts me in a better place mindset wise, even if I'm working more. But I do hear what you're saying. I think the biggest thing is, I could have gone and started any new business or added any sort of, additional stream of revenue, but this one is so directly vertically integrated into what I'm already doing. And it gives me access to more deals. It makes me feel pretty confident in the decision.
Yeah, an additional income stream. I hope that's how it works out. As your friend, putting the podcast aside, I just hope you don't get so busy and overwhelmed with listings that I see you scrambling around all day trying to close $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 sales to make a few $1,000s and not do any more of the bigger deals, because that's what you've been good at. I've done a ton of small deals and some medium to large size ones, but you've done a better job of doing bigger deals with some large spreads. So I hope you don't end up missing out on that just because you get so busy with little listings.
Absolutely. Well, and some of that too is, and we've talked about this kind of throughout the episode, is even though I'm being new at something again, I'm working with a group right now that's got, $12 million worth of property they're trying to actively sell right now. Which, I mean, you can do the math of 3% of that, that ends up being, 350 grand or whatever, which is a ton of additional income for us. But also getting to learn from these people and getting access to these people where all they're doing is what we're doing, just at a much larger scale. They're buying thousands of acres, they're splitting them into smaller properties, and they're selling them off on owner financing terms. And me getting access to them to get to learn from them and get to, beyond learning how to be an agent and making the additional money, it's, hey, I get to go find these people deals and get to work with them. And then eventually, after I develop enough rapport with them, say, hey, can we partner on these as clients become friends, where that's kind of the nature of a lot of these relationships is kind of like what you've been working on with some of the larger deals you're starting to do and some of the stuff, out in Oklahoma potentially, where you get to know these people and you get to start working with them in multiple capacities, ends up making it so where, oh shoot, now I have the capability because for us, a couple $100,000 is a ton of money to deploy into a deal. For them, it's barely anything. Like it's a non-noticeable change in their checking account balance. And so I think that adds to it. And but additional benefits to continue kind of along the conversation of becoming a realtor is the ability to control the deal. I think there's this balance that we all try to, achieve of delegating as much as we can the non-essential tasks. And I think now that I'm in control of the listings, where I've got this listing that I'm about to do, it's a property we purchased in Woodland Park, Colorado, about to put the listing up myself. Just went out there and took a bunch of videos and pictures and stuff with a media company. The quality of the listing will be one of the better ones on the market in the city, in the county. Some of the better marketing stuff that I've seen, where, yeah, you can kind of set that expectation with your realtor, but you end up having to have all these additional conversations that become, very frustrating because they're not going to market it to the same level that you are. Because now that I'm in total control, I know that not only is I'm not going to get a listing commission on selling my own property, but the fact that I'm able to really dictate the level of marketing and how much effort I put into it, it's going to be so much more than what any typical agent is going to do. Because just like you said, there's not the purpose for running around to make $1,000 or $2,000 on a listing. But for me, I'll make 20 grand as an investor agent on this. I am willing to, put a lot more effort in, and I'm really happy that I have that level of control over this deal to be able to make it exactly what I want. And I love having accountability. So it's not like I can blame the agent for sucking, but it's me that sucks rather than this other agent that sucked that I signed a listing agreement with where they're not quite in breach of the contract, but, it's not what I would want out of a listing.
Yeah. No, those are all fair points. And really, it all just comes down to trade-offs. And it'll be really interesting to talk, a year or 2 years from now and see how this ends up going. Because at the same time, I am doubling down on land right now. I'm buying a lot of land. And so, yeah, we'll see. I had considered the same thing Mason's doing of I look at all the realtor commissions I'm paying. I'm like, holy crap. But I'm in too many different states and that just doesn't really make sense for me. So I'm not going to take that on, but I'm going to continue to pay commissions. And so that's the trade-off that I'm making.
Absolutely. Well, and the thing that I want to recognize and announce to everyone too is I'm not slowing down on land. To me, this is an additional source of revenue that allows me to do more land. Yeah, I know it's going to take time, but there's also a lot of sitting around on your hands waiting for stuff to happen within the land business. And this gives me more income generating activities that I can do that doesn't cost a tremendous amount of money to me in between deals while they're sitting and waiting.
I think you really hit the nail on the head of what we've both been looking for, because with the land flipping, every deal takes more capital unless you're doing assignments, but assignments are getting harder and harder. As a quick tangent, in Florida, a lot of builders that used to buy on assignment won't do it anymore. Why? Because there's been so much fraud and so many of these builders have gotten burned. I just had this conversation with my Florida realtor on a property we were hoping to assign, and he's like, yeah, a bunch of these builders that we used to assign stuff to all the time, they just won't even do it. They won't even do it. So anyways, what you have found and what I think both of us have been looking for is something that you can work on aggressively all the time amidst the ups and downs of land sales, because money isn't a constraint. Capital isn't a constraint. And so you can always cold call or go network with more potential clients or do something that makes you more money as productive without needing more capital. And the same other that same coin is that's why part of why I've been working on some of these lender relationships, so that I know there's always capital available and I'm not constrained by that to go buy more and more and more good land. So same idea.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, today, for instance, this afternoon, serious buyer going to meet with her at property, and I have no money into this relationship. This is a Facebook lead, and if I close the deal, and I'll make $4,200.
Great.
Filling out some paperwork, going and meeting someone at a property, which is already like my favorite part of the business, is driving out and talking about land with people. And so if I, in what amounts to be an afternoon of work, make 4,200 extra bucks, that's great. That, pays for employee salaries for the month in one deal. It pays for, mortgage payment and, expenses and stuff like that. Or it pays for 8,000 more pieces of marketing material, all in just an afternoon of work, with none of my own capital deployed into it, which is the whole idea of this is just like you said. I want to make additional money without having to spend as much money to make it happen. And even if I'm spending 5-10 grand a month on marketing, where all the leads can kind of flow together, whether it's the investing side of it or the broker side of it, it just gives us, additional revenue streams that will be really, really worth it in the long run, I think. And I think also, another point about it is, we've been kind of creating content, in the investor space for a while. I'm excited to be able to have a business that feels more comfortable being customer facing, where being able to start leveraging YouTube and social media to get clients, where, yeah, we do, I do some education stuff, and we're, always working with and seeking out investors, and we're always looking for more deals, but being able to put, specific content on the internet to generate buyer and seller leads, is something that I'm excited to do, which just kind of, contributes to the overall picture of having everything that I'm working on, going out and being able to be, exponentially increasing everything else I'm working on, if that makes sense.
I'm now just thinking of a certain realtor that we both are aware of, better than I. And he has very dramatic marketing. And I'm just envisioning Mason walking on a piece of land with fireworks and, I don't know, a guitar, electric guitar in the background, advertising land as the most prime land in the United States. That's, in middle of nowhere, Colorado.
Oh yeah, no, and I'll do the Thanos entrance, and I'll do the most dramatic stuff to make it fun and make it different. And I think that's something that the industry needs. Is there's a tremendous amount of opportunity to disrupt and have fun with it and see where it goes. Where as Gen Z and millennials get more buying power, they're gonna be able to find me online, selling properties that look really cool. And especially, I mean, you get it, of some of these people that are, these old guys that are selling these properties on seller financing. They have one little small sign on the property that says, 35-acre parcels available. And that might be it. That might be all of their marketing that they do.
Yeah.
And me being able to blast it, even just on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, and start doing reels and, YouTube and TikTok and everything else that just generates more traffic and more lead flow to these properties. It changes things. It really, really does.
Yeah, no, I see the appeal, but there's going to be some frustrating days. So be ready for that.
Oh yeah. When I think it's setting the expectation of, with, I've got a buyer appointment today. I don't know if it'll go through. And so I'm going to set the expectation of like 1 out of every 25 buyer appointments that I have on these properties will go through and turn into a deal. And if it ends up being 1 out of 1 or 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 50, I'm not going in with the expectation of like, yes, like, potential profit of this deal is $4,200. Like I'm saying, yeah, like I can recognize that's what happens if I close it, but it probably won't be with this person. It's the first person that I'm meeting with at this property. And I think being able to go in and set those expectations too, of, I realize my ego might be coming through of like, I think I will be able to disrupt the land, broker business, but I think it's also going to take me years and years and years to do. And I think that being able to add a new flair to it in a way that people aren't doing yet, will be exciting and be beneficial for everyone involved. So if you need realtor services in Colorado, give me a call.
Yep. Yeah, well, I think that's a good place to maybe end the episode, guys. The summary is simple. There's everything has trade-offs, and there's no magic money printing strategy that doesn't have its trouble, its frustration, its nuances, or things that go wrong that you're not aware of. So being a realtor is no different. You can make a lot of money doing it. I know a lot of people that have, and I expect you will. But that comes with trade-offs.
Absolutely. So seriously, you guys, if you need anything as a realtor in Colorado, or you're just interested in talking about the transition, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to discuss it at more length than what you'll get from this podcast. But everybody, this is Mason McDonald and Dan Haberkas with the Big Picture Blueprint, signing off.